Welcome back to the Casual Athlete Buy, Hold, Sell. We have Biz back in the house, and he's here to celebrate because, look, Tommy Talau got 7 points. We're talking about round 6. Mate, it's been a good couple of weeks for you there, hasn't it?
Nah, mate, I'd love to say so. I've been up 10K ranks, but it's not hard when you're about 40,000. But you know what? Like this whole time, I've had a poor start to the year, but I've never once lost faith in the team, except Satili Tupanua. I'm trading him out. I can't wait. Like as soon as this video is over, I'm trading him out.
And when you trade Supernova, are you looking at someone like this?
Absolutely. Actually, he was my captain last week. That's probably why I'm ranked 40,000. Yeah.
The GOAT Talau. We got to Photoshop a Manly jersey onto this photo. It's just too good.
I love this photo. We play it. We have it every week now. It's just our flagship somehow.
Dude, I'm obsessed with the Talau. The Talau, mate. I think we should have actually in the comments, guys. Comment what you think Talau will score this week, and whoever gets it right wins a prize. And I've just thought of this on the go because we actually are launching something new. So we've got championship rings coming through, NRL Fantasy Championship rings. Let me actually show you guys these because they're pretty baller. I'll drop the link as well. But these are the championship rings coming through. So 2024 NRL Fantasy Championship rings. There's going to be one given away for whoever guesses Tommy Talau's score correctly. And it's going to be another one given away for whoever wins the overall championship in the Casual Athlete League. There's about 4,000 people in that. If you're up the top, I was chatting to someone who was coming second the other day. You know, you could win yourself a ring. What do you think of these, though, Biz? Obviously, you're in America, so it's pretty normal for you.
Yeah, pretty normal for me, but for our viewers, this is just totally out of the blue. Like the ring we talked about, guess the Tommy Talau score. Longy has just made this up on the fly. We did not discuss this. So there you go. It's a new competition out of the blue. I don't even know what to say, but it sounds fun. I'll guess they've got the Warriors this week. I'll start. I reckon he'll score 22 points. There you go.
22 points. There's the first guess. All right. You gotta put that in the comments though to make it official.
I'll put it in the comments.
But yeah, mate, you're right. It's completely made up on the spot. They shouldn't let me make decisions, but they do. And now we're giving away, I'm gonna put mine on now. Championship rings for NRL Fantasy. I won mine in 2013. You can win yours by guessing Tommy Talau's score. Let's jump right into it though. So buy, hold, sell for this week. We've got a big one coming up. I'll make us a little smaller here too. And first up, the buys for this week. So some really good names here. There's tons of options for this week, which is super exciting. First one here is Gus Crichton. Second one, Sean Bloor. Third one, Dylan Lucas. You've got 3 back rowers at a price point that's quite similar. I'll throw it to you first, Biz, here, because I've got a pretty strong opinion on who I think is the best. But who are you leaning towards? And actually, could you rank these 3 for me in terms of the value of them as a buy option this week?
Yeah, absolutely. And before I do that, our viewers always are like, where are the cows? Like, we have a separate section for the cows. We know there's a lot of those this week as well. So just keep watching.
So we'll quickly hop on that. Cheapies, pods, holds, sells.
Yeah.
That's the structure for this week.
So we always get that in the comments. It's like, where's this person? I'm like, they're in the cow section. But it's good to have first-time viewers. So if you're new to the channel and you're first time watching, welcome aboard. Okay, so you want me to rank these 3? Look, this is really interesting. I think Dylan Lucas is the best out of the 3 from a scoring standpoint, but I just don't know how long Frizzell's out. So it could be 1 week, it could be 4 weeks. They haven't really come out with more information. Long out, unless I missed something. It's pretty early in New York, so I might have missed the news from overnight. But from what I understand, it's a kind of indefinite issue. Sean Bloor, I like. We were high on him. You were really high on him in the preseason to be this year's Eli Katoa. He's played pretty well the last 2 weeks. He's averaging about 40 without any blockbuster stats. He's playing about 65 minutes. My problem with him is Joe Chan is still there as 18th man, and he played pretty well too when he started the year. So he could swap minutes with him or just be a bit of a pest in terms of stealing time on the field. And then Angus, look, he's the most interesting. The thing with Angus is he's been shown to be one of the best edge players for fantasy over many years. He's still pretty young. The only problem with Angus is Nat Butcher is their 80-minute edge, and I'm fairly confident that Angus is just stepping into Satili's role, where he'll play 55 odd 60 minutes and Satili will play 20, 25 minutes. The thing with Angus compared to Satili is that Angus has career PPM much higher. Satili's PPM is about 0.5. Angus's career PPM is about 0.75. So even if he's getting 55 minutes, he could potentially average 40. He loves an attacking stat, and at 40, he's still at a cut price. So that's my quick fire analysis on all three. I would probably go Angus. Oh, actually, now that I've said that, they're all kind of shady. Yolongi,
It's hard, isn't it?
They're all kind of shady because
Yeah.
Lucas could be gone next week. Blore could be low minutes or gone next week, and Angus, he could also be gone next week. Like they've got Egan Butcher sitting there, who was one of their best last week. They've got Satili, who they like, and they extended to a 3-year deal. And then they've got Suo Wong out the back, who still can't make the team, even though I thought he was pretty solid in the first 2 weeks and was one of their best in their hot run last year. So after saying all that, I don't know. Maybe I'm just going to avoid all three because I've got enough problems to deal with.
Mate, you were shook. You went from loving all three and breaking the rules by all three to I'm not touching any of them.
As I talk through them, it's like all three of them could be gone next week. Like, there's definitely a chance.
I'm going to go a different way on this because I think Sean Blore is just a surefire, absolute weapon. He looked fantastic in a Tigers team that was really struggling. He's about a 45 average when he plays the big minutes at the Tigers. He's 23 years old. Katoa came in at 23 as well. And I think Craig Bellamy would prefer to have an 80-minute back rower in that spot. So I look at him and I just think, you throw all that in, you look at the Storm fixtures, which are fantastic for the next month, and you put him next to Cam Munster, of all people. I think that is surefire. I think he has one game in this where he scores 70 to 80 points, just like Eli Katoa last week. He'll have those lower games where he scores sort of 40 to 50. But, yeah, I think he's a surefire, absolute weapon. 526K. I think we could be seeing him at 700K plus before the Origin period. And I've already got Eli Katoa, but I'm sort of looking at potentially over the next week or two getting both of those guys into my team. Gus Crichton, I think the value of him is he's 100K cheaper than the other two. So even if he does average 40 at 442K, it's sort of all upside there. As long as he doesn't get dropped, which he's talented. He's an absolute gun, so I don't think he will get dropped. And then Dylan Lucas. Dylan Lucas is a weapon. Probably the best. Oh, probably not actually. He's when he was center wing, he was sort of center eligible at least. He's center wing in Supercoach. He's kind of more valuable there. But I'd have him in third place. So I'd go Blore, Crichton, Lucas myself. I'll throw it to the next group here. We've got SJ and DCE. So again, really interesting options. Look, they're probably a very similar scoring profile in my mind. SJ is slightly better, but what we got to look at here is the Origin period. So you're paying about 64K more for SJ for a slightly higher average and for that coverage through the Origin period. Whereas for DCE, 750K, you're getting him up until round 13, and then you would be selling him off. So look, both really attractive options. A big part of it is I'd go have a look myself if I was you at the Warriors fixtures, at the Manly fixtures, and just comb through those and just think, all right, do I think the Warriors are going to dominate these games? Do I think Manly are going to dominate these games? And whichever way you're leaning in terms of those teams, that's going to reflect in the scores of these two guys. From my side, I'm kind of more attracted to DCE as that pod, but I'm less attracted to these guys now that they've had these big scores. Because remember last week we were talking about them on the watch list. That big score has taken them out of pod territory, so it's a little less exciting now. And with the injuries we have, I'm not grabbing either of them this week. Are you making the move on either of these guys?
It's an interesting point you make, Longy, about not chasing last week's score. Now, usually I 100% agree with that, but I go back to your preseason analysis, and you talked about Tedesco being one of those guys. If he's hot, he's staying hot for a long period, and if he's cold, he's staying cold for a long period. Yep. The thing with DC, what I really like about DC is it's not just this year. Even last year, he would have 3 or 4 games where he's slow, and then 3 or 4 games where he just explodes. And that's kind of how DC averages the mid-60s year in, year out. Like, he'll have games where it's 35, 40, 45, but out of everyone outside of Hines and Cleary, DC has the most, like, 90 scores, 100 scores. Like, he is very capable of 90 to 100 plus, and he could have hit that 100 plus last week if it had a few more things go his way. So I really like DC at 750K. Sean Johnson is a very different player. Like, in terms of his scoring, I know he scored huge last week, but he's more consistently 65, 55. He's just hitting that mark consistently. He'll have one low game, one high game, balances out, gets a 60 average. Whereas DC's kind of like 35, 45, 85, and they'll finish the year hot with like 95, 100. And at 750K, man, DC, I know he's old, but he's probably been the third best half after Hines and Cleary for many years now. And before Hines was a halfback, DC was the second best halfback. And the Cleary DC combo was the Cleary Hines of back then. So, I'm really high on DC. I'm kind of talking myself into him. He's the type of player I could just see if I could just sneak him into my team. If he can get it on a run, I could make up a lot of ranks. But on the flip side, there's also Cleary coming back next week. And if I get DC this week, I can't see myself affording Cleary next week. And I think I'd just rather get Cleary because they both have Origin commitments. So probably we'll have to skip just on that fact alone.
Yeah, I mean, the value of Cleary there is if you get him and no one else has him and you captain him, it's a double whammy, right? Because if he comes out and scores those big numbers against the Tigers, for example, first game back, and let's say he outscores Nico Hines by 25 points, you're not making up 25 points. You're making up 50 because he's your captain and no one else has him, right? So, yeah, the idea of having Nathan Cleary as a pod is pretty massive. It is probably one or the other. Personally, I prefer the idea of having someone like Sean Johnson over Nathan Cleary. So I've got Nico Hines already. But if I could have Hines and SJ through the Origin period, grab myself a Sam Walker as well when he bottoms out in sort of the 400Ks area, and then also have Lockie Galvin, then to me, that's the ultimate sort of halves set up through the Origin period. It'll mean that I don't have Cleary until like round 20, which is a bit concerning. But with the cash generation this year, I'm willing to make that sacrifice. So that's sort of where I sit on that. I'll throw another guy in here too. It's a bit more of a cut price option. So Jaden Campbell. Jay Campbell to fit him in. But look, JC comes in at 481K, cranked out a 60-point game last week, and he was looking quiet early in that one and just begun to explode as the game went on. Now, with him, I think he's almost independent of the Titans' woes. I think if they can get in some attacking positions and just feed him some early ball, which Kieran Foran and Tanner Boyd can do, and if he can be around a guy like Dave Feeder, Brian Kelly was looking better. I think he makes everyone else around him more offensively potent too. Then he can be a good scorer. So at 481K, it's not like we're saying buy him at 600K. At 481K, he's sort of 1 to 200K of value in terms of his personal talent. And if everything goes downhill, he'll still make you 100K. So I think he's a surefire option. If you're someone running with, so I've got Rapana and Tedesco, for example, I kind of have to go get him. Question is, I'm looking at him and I'm looking at next guy here, Chevy Stewart. I'm sort of thinking, all right, do I get Chevy Stewart or do I go straight up to a Jaden Campbell? My view is that I probably have more trust for Jaden Campbell, but I'll throw it to you. What do you think about these two in terms of a comparison?
I agree with your assessment that Jaden Campbell, I think, is, I wouldn't say fully independent of the Titans' performances. I think for Jaden Campbell to be a really good scorer, he needs some attacking stats. Yeah. But on the flip side, with players like who are in kind of in attacking positions, being behind on the scoreboard is sometimes a good thing because you become desperate, you start flinging offloads around, a lot more broken play. And we have seen that before where fullbacks, etc., and bad teams get a lot of what people know as garbage time stats because they're just behind. Every tackle they're throwing it out the back or, just trying to fend people off. So it does work in that regard. But the thing with Jaden Campbell is it's a very good work rate. So I actually think that he is a good buy. I'm skipping him this week just because I'm going to go. I want to get some cash going. So I'm going to probably get the first two names on this list, Ira and Stewart, and just bank 650 odd K for next week. And I'll try and get in Cleary. I'll try and get in Haas if he comes back early. Because I love the idea of those two kind of players as pods. But back to this discussion, for what you say, I think especially I've been burnt before, like this season. Like, for example, I had Tuapiki and Keeney at the start of the year, right? And the problem with those players, if two get dropped or injured at the same time, it's very difficult to replace. And with Canberra backs, like let's be real here, they've got a ton of good backs. Like, for example, Chris and Timoko are very good centers locked in. They've got Schiller, who's playing really well on the wing. He's been one of their best in the 2 games he's played. And who's their other wing? Savage. Savage has been really good to start the year. He's been excellent. He's totally burnt the Eels to a crisp, unfortunately.
Well, you're raising a good point here, actually, because what's the model of a good back three, right? It's big meter eaters, and it's getting their set started right. You know what the problem's going to be for them? Chevy Stewart comes in. He's 18 years old or something, right? He won't be a big meter eater early in the set. You got you got Xavier Savage, who's undersized for a winger, and you have James Schiller, who has about the same cardio work rate as I do. So you got 3 guys there who.
That's harsh. That's harsh on Schiller, man. He tore up our team.
What I'm more getting at here is that Schiller is an offensive freak, but he'll score you 40 points in fantasy from 3 tries, kind of thing. That's more what I'm getting at, right?
Yeah.
Good player, bad fantasy option. What I'm getting at is they don't have that Brian Toe, that Sunia Taruva, that Dylan Edwards. So I think maybe this week they might find that's a problem. And Kotrick is probably the guy that comes in and solves that problem. If Kotrick comes into the wing and Schiller's playing the great footy he's playing, do you drop Savage, or does Savage slide into that fullback spot? On merit, I would say Savage is the fullback, but I don't watch any Canberra reserve grade. And in Rezzies, Savage was behind Chevy Stewart. So we'll see what happens. It's a good matchup this week against the Titans, though, for their security. Like, they should win, but it could be a problem in coming weeks.
Yeah, I think that is good analysis. Like, Rapana is a meter eater. Chevy is not. So that the gameplay out the back changes completely. But, you know, in terms of Chevy Stewart, he's averaging 48 in the reserves. He's scoring tries. They've hyped him up. He was kind of primed in the preseason to win it, but then he just didn't have a great game against Parramatta. I wish that I could say that about last week, but they had a great game against Parramatta. But I think Savage is he's been one of their better players off the wing. He's added a lot to them. So, like, offensively, he can kind of score a try to the blue. So I can't see them moving him. I think Chevy's pretty safe there this week, at least. Probably instead of last game, so you're screwed if they do a late change before kickoff. But whether he lasts 6 to 8 weeks, I'm not too sure. I think they have a bye in a few weeks, which will help him, because I don't think they'd want him to play 6 to 8 weeks in a row, just given how small he is and how young he is. But yeah, you know, at 230K, what's the worst that can happen? As soon as I said that, I know what the worst that can happen. He's going to drop next week, and I'm sit with another red dot for the rest of the year.
Look, it's a good cash out if you're running Dylan Edwards, if you're running Talon May, if you're running James Tedesco. All these guys will be back next week. Ruben Garrick, you know, he'll be back against the Titans next week. Like, you can afford to take the gamble and say, hey, you know what? I'm starting him against the Titans, Chevy Stewart, and if something bad happens from there, then so be it. Kyle Iro comes in as well, so he is at 268K. Look, we were talking about this pre-recording, but absolute fantasy monster when he comes into the team. Just one of those tackle busters. Looks like a genuine first-grade center, which is always a really good sign. The issue is with this job security that you've got Talakai sitting on the bench, and you have guys like Toby Rudolph, Braden Hamlin-Uele sitting on the extended bench. How long can Talakai stay in the forward pack with those guys coming back in? Even a guy like Jack Williams, for example, who's sitting on the bench, he won't get dropped. You know, they're not going to drop him. Talakai, is he going to be playing middle minutes because you got Nakora back now, you got Teague Wilton back. They're both eating up pretty big minutes as well. I think Iro is extremely risky, but with extreme upside.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that assessment. I was going to say this is a situation, just like I mentioned with Tuapiki and Keeney, that there is a very high chance if you get Iro and Stewart, they both disappear in the same week. But I think Stewart is safer. That. Yeah, Stewart is the better option, I think. But I will get Iro just because I think I need to take some risks, and he'll get time over the year. He's been knocking the door down for a couple of years now. He's been excellent in reserves. He had a great game last week. The week before, and the upside is too high for me because the Sharks do like using their edges. And I don't think Talakai has been setting the world alight. He had that hot run for about 5 games when he came into the centers. And he hasn't just been okay since. He hasn't been amazing. Like, you know, that game against boy Morgan Harper where he destroyed him. There hasn't been much of that
the Harper flu game, mate.
Yeah. Oh, God. I don't think Iro's is... No, I agree. I mean, the thing with 4 bench forwards is if they just want to squeeze everyone in, it makes sense they put Talakai in centers, and Ira unfortunately loses his spot. They just have too many middles and stuff, man. But yeah, like you said, Wilson and Nikora play 80 minutes. So.
Yeah, you make a good point because he is probably the backup winger for them as well. So there's 4 spots where there can be an injury or through Origin, there can be, Mulatalo making Origin or whatever it is, right?
Yeah, and you
making it again, like.
Yeah, exactly. And you saw last year Connor Tracy played a lot of games through injuries, and he was that kind of next man to the back line. So hopefully Iro, I'm not saying hopefully there's injuries, but hopefully Iro, I think I'll take a punt on him, and hopefully he keeps a spot.
The upside's good, 100%. I rate that. Jai Gray, 230k. I'm just going to note a few things here. So he comes in, he'll be the lightest player in the NRL apparently, 77 kilos. Got like a 63 average in reserve grade this year so far. So he's an absolute beast. But he comes in this week and they have a bye next week. Now, if South Sydney bring him in and he's a disaster this week, they probably use that 2 weeks off to make the changes they need to make, with Latrell back after 2 more games after that. So Latrell out for 3 weeks. To me, this one screams, wait a week, watch it, cop it if he comes in and kills it. And if you think the sort of drums are beating for Latrell to move to center, which I can't see it happening, but if you think that's the way things are going, then Jai Gray might be an option too. Anything to change there, or are you pretty happy with that take?
I agree with that take. I also just don't. I originally liked it. Like you said, he has that average does like 55 odd in reserves. We've seen that before though. Keeney averaged about 55 in reserves and did absolutely nothing in first grade.
Keep bringing up Keeney. I need you to stop.
I'm torn. We're going to replace Talau with Keeney next week.
Oh.
No.
What's Talau going to score though? Surely everyone's got their comments in now. Like, the problem is everyone's going to say 4 points or like 8 points.
Yeah, 22. As I said, 21 or 22. 22.
You said 22. I'm going to go with 63.
I got to put it in the comments.
63.
He's going to score 10 tries or something.
He's gonna see this video and be like, "Oh, stuff those casual athlete guys. I'm gonna absolutely tear up today." 63 points with like 8 tries. Like, it'll just be a masterclass for him.
I love how we literally sit behind a computer and technically insult players based on fantasy performance.
That's why it's allowed. Because it doesn't actually impact them. Like Darren Lockyer was a really average fantasy player. It means nothing to them.
Yeah,
it means everything to us.
Yeah. God, we're sad. Anyway, what was I saying? Okay, Jai Gray. Now, the thing with Jai Gray, what I don't love is coming off the bye. I think they played Penrith and Melbourne.
Oh, done.
So two of the 3 games, we've seen Melbourne really. Sorry, not Melbourne. We've seen Penrith clamp every single fullback they've played, pretty much. I mean, I know Turbo did pretty well last week, but they've shut down Teddy. They've shut down all sorts of players. Even Ponga last year in his hot run, he was scoring 80 every game, and then when he played Penrith, he had a try and still only 19 points. Like Penrith are really good at shutting down opposition fullbacks. So 2 out of his 3 games are against top 4 level opposition. Nah, I'm probably skipping.
You also throw in that South's kind of rubbish right now. Like they're just like Parramatta. They're a big disappointment. Tommy Chester then. Tommy Chester 350k. My take here is that it's just a bit too expensive to really care this week. I think he could potentially go well. So he's probably underpriced. He's in a Cowboys team that can attack, and Leibot had big games and small games in that spot. So he's probably 150k of value across a long period of time. But he's only available at wing fullback. And for me, I'd rather go Jaden Campbell or Chevy Stewart than this guy. If he has a great game, comes out and plays well, then maybe next week we can take a look at it. But for this week, I think he's pretty easy to sit there. And then Mamazulos, obviously Damien Cook has been benched, or not benched, dropped out of the team completely, which is a joke. It's a travesty. It is an injustice for Damien Cook, who all that guy does is go out and make his tackles, make his runs, give great service, and just seems to be an all-round good bloke. So I just think it's a travesty. I hope they make what change they need to make in terms of the coaching staff so that Cook gets his spot back. And obviously that means to me that this is not a bye.
No, yeah, I can't imagine he keeps his spot more than 1 week. I think after the bye, Cook comes straight back. Cook, he has missed a few bad tackles this year, but he's still pretty good out of dummy half. I know Souths fans are kind of don't want Cook playing 80 minutes because, yeah, he's getting older, he's getting fatigued and defensively making some mistakes when he's tired. But to drop him, to drop him completely is, I don't know, mind-boggling to me. Like, what I'd do to have Cook at Parramatta, man. Seriously.
He's not missing that many tackles either. Like, I looked at the numbers. I think it was like 2 tackles he missed last week. And like
yeah, but a couple of
48
bad
more.
ones, though. Like, for example, a couple of his misses directly lead to tries. Like, for example, his miss last week when Egan kind of did that real sleight of hand play up the middle where Nickel Clockstad scored. He missed a tackle from the inside. And I remember a couple of times this year where he's missed tackles from the inside late in games. But he doesn't need to play 80 minutes. Like, play him 50, 60 minutes. You've got Havili, you've got Mamazola, but, man, like, I don't know. I don't watch Souths games closely enough. If you're a Souths fan, let us know what you think in the comments alongside your prediction for Talau's score. So I'd love to kind of get some more insight or views on this dropping because it seemed a desperation scapegoat kind of play to me.
That's the feedback I'm getting across the board, that it's just this desperation play. Because yeah, South fans don't think that Cook is playing badly necessarily. Look, he's missing the odd tackle, but you look at Reid Marnie. When he was at Parramatta, he missed 1.9 tackles a game. He's gone to the Dogs, it's gone to 5.7. Right, so it's not a reflection of the hooker's defensive ability, and a lot of the time it's actually a reflection of the support around them. And a hooker's they're normally an undersized guy. They're normally not that guy that's going to be making those tackles through the middle one-on-one. They want to be more getting supported through the middle. So, look, if Cook is struggling defensively, it's not his fault. It's the rest of the South's middle rotation. You got a Cam Murray who is carrying injury this year, playing less minutes. Could be a potential sell. I might just drop that in. And you've got some other guys who are underperforming in that team as well, who they just, something happened midway through last year, and they've just decided to switch off. So, yep, skip on at Marmazelis. Then going through to the pods. This is such a fun section before we go into the holds and sells. But the pods, we've got 5 guys here at varying level of poddiness. Jack Cog is the first one, 0.6%. He's dropped about 100K this year. He's at about 513K now. A guy who can average sort of 45 points when he's clocking along. He's done that at Penrith and he's done that at the Bulldogs as well previously. So I look at him next to Jackson Hastings. It's vaguely interesting. I'm not going to go do it. There's too many good options this week, but a bit of a pod there if you want to take a look at that. I'm going to throw this one to you. Atoka Manu, 680K, 1.6%. A guy who averages 50 plus when he plays 50 plus minutes. Can he keep up the rage? Is that 77 a fluke, or what are you thinking here?
Yeah, he's been rolling with it. Like I've been really impressed by him. He's been breaking tackles, good work rate. We were kind of predicting this a couple of seasons ago, where he was one of the really highly owned players, and it never kind of eventuated. This year looks like the year. The problem is he's priced quite highly now, and I know he got 66 minutes last week, but I was also with Bateman copying a HIA. And him coming back on early. Like I looked at the rotation because I was looking at
Fino got hit too.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know if he's necessarily like at 680K, I'm skipping him, but he could be a pod. Like he could be last year's Fanua Blake, right? Where he just kind of creeps up on you. He's not getting the minutes, or you don't think he's going to get the minutes, and then he just keeps getting the minutes, and he keeps getting attacking stats. And that was kind of like Fanua Blake last year. Where people were looking at him and saying, oh, he's only really playing 55, 60 minutes. Like, surely he can't keep it up. And he just kept scoring 70, 80. And by the time everyone got him, he was like 900K. And, it's too late. So if you're backing that kind of story, then, yeah, I think he's a good pod pick for sure, especially because Tigers are a lot more they look a lot more improved than last year.
Oh, next to Coruscant as well. Look, he's passing the eye test is the big thing. So we were chatting about this 2 weeks ago. And we weren't really taking him seriously as a fantasy prospect, to be honest. But we were talking about the fact that he was running over everyone in those games. So against Parramatta, for example, he came out and the Tigers pack was outmatched, but he was the one guy who just kept running over players.
He ran over Lussick like 6 times in 10 minutes.
Oh, Lussick. Lussick scored like 22 that week because of him. But he was just a monster in that game. So, and look, there's got to be a reason that Parramatta let him walk for free. Usually that means the player is really good. So
yeah,
he's destined for greatness. The challenge here is, look, if he was Fanua Blake and he was a Kiwi, I'd be very seriously considering it. Because he's going to play Origin this year, in my mind, though, it adds another line in the negative column. If he keeps playing well like this, he'll play Origin for sure. So 680K, started the year at 587K. That would have been the time to do it. It was just hard to predict. That's the thing. But
Very
this
hard.
is one of those really good examples where you talk about a guy who's making a talent leap, where he's sort of been in the same role for a few years now, and you had to pick that talent leap from him, which would then earn the minutes. So
New
he's a good
coach as
shout.
well helps. Benji must have kind of given him
Yeah.
some slightly different advice or more minutes that is having an impact as well.
Yeah. Oh, and Coruscant's playing better too. There's a few.
Yeah.
There's a few things here.
Definitely. No,
Yeah.
definitely.
I'll throw another one here. So Jerome Hughes, and you could talk about Munster by extension in this section as well. The reason I've got Jerome Hughes here though is 2.6% owned. Again, the Storm have really good fixtures. So every reason that I was saying Ali Katoa in the preseason is a reason for Jerome Hughes. In the same way, every reason for Blore is a reason for Cam Munster. I think they're just going to dominate these edges in these matchups, which starts off with the Dogs this week and then runs into some pretty easy matchups. Look, 745k. The challenge here, because I'm getting asked about him a lot, and he's a 49 average playing next to Munster. He's a 61 average without Munster. You get Munster back, call him a 50 guy with some big upside games. It's just too expensive for my liking when you can get DC for the same price.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. The one thing I will add is that it might be a bit different this year because Munster's coming off that groin injury, like that indefinite where he slipped in the shower. By the way, does anyone else like not believe that? Like, it sounds mad sus.
First,
Anyway,
yeah.
yeah.
We got stepped by Tommy Talau like some
Yeah,
training.
exactly. Yeah, far out. Yeah, slipping in the shower in Fiji. Come on, man. That's like surely there's a conspiracy behind that. Anyway, the thing is, he didn't kick much last week because of that groin, and we saw with Moses when he twinged his groin that he just doesn't do as much kicking. So Jerome Hughes might actually get a lot more attacking stats. And Munster's first game back, he was pretty quiet last week, but I think Munster, if he's you said an extension of Hughes' Munster, then if Munster's quiet for a few weeks, he could be a great pod pickup down the track. Getting close to Origin, though, which makes him tricky. But then Jerome Hughes, if he just kind of dominates for the next few weeks and gets the Origin period where Munster might be rested a lot, that's good too. So he's a sneaky pick, and Hughes does have the big game potential. And while he's doing more of the kicking, he's got a higher floor as well. So don't mind it. But as you said, if you're picking him half at 750k, like it has to be DC, right? Just have to be him.
Yeah, if you had dropped in price a bit before this, it might have been interesting, but he's a bit expensive. I'll throw this guy to you, unless you don't know anything about him, but Charnsicle Clockstad. I'm getting asked a lot about him. Something in my heart says, don't do it. It's not worth it. Just we've got years of data on Chans, and I don't view him as that top tier wing fullback option. And 581k, let's call it just under 600k, right? You're paying for a guy who's going to be a keeper. So to me, it's a skip, but I'll throw it to you.
No, I agree. We've got lots of years of data on him. The Warriors were already very good last year. I just think he's going to be more of the same as last year. He's going to have these big games. He might have a couple of quieter games, but he just doesn't have the ball playing. He's a very good runner off the football. He's kind of like Dylan Edwards in that sense, like good support runner, good tackle buster, but he just doesn't have that kind of next level of finesse, kind of like a Turbo, Ponga, etc. So I think he's pretty much he'll have enough spike games to get 650k, but he might get 650 and drop back to 550. And I don't really think, like, with so many potential buys this week, like CMK wouldn't be one of them unless you're a massive Warriors fan.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think the same thing. And yeah, it's hard to compare him because if you get into this price, you sort of have to start saying, all right, is he going to be one of the greats? Will he compare with Ponga, with Turbo, with Tedesco, with Talau? These types of players.
With Keeney, mate.
the boys, the leaders of the hype train. Look, last guy I'll throw in here then, and this is a Warrior that I'm actually more excited about. It does not work for my team at all. There's nothing I can do about it. But Wade Egan at 593k. If injuries didn't exist, Wade Egan would be in my team tomorrow, the next day after that. Like, he is just such a weapon of a player. Like, just tons of attacking upside, great defensive work rate. The Warriors love him. They've got an awesome forward pack for him to work off the back of. I love this guy, but my worry is that he could just walk out, and so many times he's come out and scored, a sub 20 score because of injury. So you can pick a guy like this, and if they crack a 60 this week, it's like, great, you've made up 10 points on the Coruscant owners. But if they crack out at 15 next week, you've suddenly lost 35 points. So the equation doesn't work in my mind. Are you on the same page with this guy?
Yeah, I mean, the thing Egan's proved over the last 12 months is he's critical for the Warriors. Like, they're just a totally different team with him. He might be creeping up, if he hasn't already done so, now an elite hooker in the NRL. And there's not that many hookers that really stand out to me. Obviously, Harry Grant, Coruscant.
Origin, Blues, what do you think?
I don't mind it, honestly. Like, I don't think
him and Coruscant rotation.
I think Cora's definitely there. I don't know if Egan's squeezing the bench. We've got Robson as well, who's playing pretty well this year. So it's a tricky bench hooker spot, but Egan's not far off. Honestly, I really like what he does. His sleight of hand is excellent. He runs the ball well. Yeah, but on your point, he does have a history of concussions, shoulders, burners, where he just doesn't finish the game, and you can't really afford that when you're paying 600K.
I mean, for Origin, right? If you get him in as that, because I think he's the best choice for that bench hooker role. Like I like Robbo. I'm a big Robbo fan. I've got him in my fantasy team, but I think Coruscant and Egan gives you the most spark out of that position, takes the most advantage of our advantage in the forward pack for the Blues. So he could be around that. Look, I wouldn't let Origin scare you off buying him. If you like Egan and you're willing to take the gamble on the injuries, because like every guy who is cheap, there's a gamble for a reason, right? They're cheap for a reason. There's something there. For him, it's injuries, but if you wouldn't take that gamble, I wouldn't let Origin talk you out of it. So yeah, big pod could be really interesting. We're going to go into the holds and the sells here, and there are so many guys to talk about here. So I want to talk about the guys that I think are holds. Biz, throw it at me if you disagree on any of these. But first one I'm going to throw in here is Terrell May. So 667K. Yeah, that week last week where I've gotten so many different mixed reports that I actually don't know what's true. I heard he missed the team bus. I heard he had COVID. I heard he got the cooties. Like, I heard that he questioned Tommy Talau in the pregame. Like, I've heard every single thing. I have no idea what's true. I just think it's a rotation thing, and Trent Robinson is just a little kooky and maybe had a few too many whiskeys before the game or something. But Terrell May, he's a hold for me. He's just proven that he's that bona fide gun. I think he bounces right back to it this week. Are you thinking the same?
Yeah, I mean, they just extended him as well that week, I'm pretty sure. He just signed an extension, didn't he? So, not sure. Some guys
celebrated the rest.
Yeah, well, some guys in my group chat kind of said that it could be a sports science thing where they track your work rate and level over the last few weeks, and it's just like a scheduled maintenance week where they might have said, we'll lower your minutes.
Could those guys keep track of it and warn us in advance instead of...
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if that's true, but maybe, right? Like, but
is that Josh? Josh Chung?
No. I think it's JC. You still watching or playing this year?
I just know he's hardcore, man.
He's hardcore. No, I think I wouldn't be surprised if he plays 50 minutes for a 60-point performance this week. Last week was very strange. They had no players, and the fittest guy, the fittest forward, didn't get on the field. It's very strange.
Everyone was injured. Yeah, you go from Gus Crichton isn't worth a minute to here's 80 minutes, Gus Crichton.
It's so
totally
strange.
Insane. All right, I'll throw another one at you then. Chucky Tedesco, 688K. If you had him, would you hold?
Is he going to only miss 1 week, right? Are they talked about? One. If it's one, I'd hold. If they talk about giving him a longer rest, I wouldn't hold. But I think 1 week for sure, I'd hold him. He's looked really good this year, so he looks like he could be the top fullback this year potentially. So I'd hold him.
He's also kind of cheap now, 688K. It's a bit awkward. He was 750 a couple of weeks ago. Sammy Hughes then 302K. Thoughts?
Yeah, I think with all the Bulldogs injuries, I know they've named a lot of players, but like, for example, they've named a bunch of players who I thought were out for 4 weeks. So there could be quite a few changes. He has earned more minutes. He scored a very good try for them last week. He looked pretty good. Judiciary, Tuesday night in Australia, which is now, I haven't seen the news because I've woke up and gone straight into this, but did he pass his judiciary issue?
Ooh, I don't actually find that out while we keep talking.
Okay.
The other thing is, look, with that, I think the other side of that, right? So Max King, he comes in with a broken or fractured hand or something like that.
Yeah.
Fractured wrist, whatever it is. surely he's going to miss some tackles against Harry Grant this week. Like, surely Harry Grant is just going to gash those guys through the middle. I actually think Grant is. If I didn't have Hines and I had Grant, I'd captain Grant this week over most guys. I think he's going to tear the Dogs up.
Yeah, I got Captain Hines, VC Grant this week. But I think while you're looking at that, the next guy, Salmon, as well. Salmon's kind of that new Mitch Orbison. Like, every time you're like, he's looking good. He's looking good in the middle. And then, boom, someone gets injured. He's out at center. I think out of the 5 weeks he's played, he's ended in the centers for 3 of them. Twice for Adokar, and then again this week. So I think Salmon's a guy who can do pretty well if he stays at lock, but he's at least got a couple more weeks in him, and that dual position is handy. So I'd be holding Salmon. And then Inafuaki, I think you just hold him. Like, he's you knew when he bought him, he had a 25, 29 in him, but he also has a 40, 50 in him. So there could be any week, especially with how good the Cowboys are playing, especially versus the Eels this week.
Yeah, they got an easy matchup,
They got
Parramatta.
Yeah, it's got a walk-up matchup. But yeah, I mean, like, he's going to be potentially busting tackles. We love conceding forward tries. It's kind of sad, man.
It's probably anyway. He's too talented to score against us. Like, we're more of a Sam McIntyre double.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. No,
yeah, I'll just answer that question too on the suspension. So Latrell Mitchell 3 games, Kurt Donahue 2 games, and Dom Young 2 games. For our boy, he got a fine. So guilty, but he got a fine, Sam Hughes. So he will be fine to play. Max King, surely, like last year, they played Max King through some pretty brutal injuries because the Dogs just don't really care about him for some reason. They're doing the same thing again this year. I don't know why they don't. He's actually such a good player. Like, they just need to look after him a bit. But
for sure. I wouldn't be surprised if there's some late changes to that. So.
Yeah. So Sam Hughes comes in, starts, scores 50. I'll quote you on that. And then on the sells section, these are guys that I think
this is my whole team, bro. Yeah. Every week, it's my whole team.
I have to hold a few of these guys as well because 4 of them are in my team and 1 was in my team last week as well. So Drew Hutchison, Kyle Flanagan are both players that I'm going to have to play in my 17 this week, but I'll put them in the sells section just to
I think Drew Hutchison you can hold. Like, he's still making money. Like, it's not fast burn, but he's not. I think
he'll get clamped by the Storm this week. I think they're going to get embarrassed, the Dogs. I just reckon they're going to get absolutely destroyed.
Like, I agree, but I think he could still give you 25-30. So after
I just reckon that's if your team is good, if your team's going good and you don't have anyone you need to sell Hutch. Because if you could move Hutch for Blore, for example, and it costs you 60K, that's a plus 25-point move, I think, this week.
Or even downgrading to Angus. So.
Yeah, downgrade to Angus, save some money. That's probably still a plus 15, 20-point move.
Yeah.
And then Kyle Flanagan, who are the Dragons playing again? They're playing the Tigers, aren't they? So he
could potentially, I think the Tigers. That's right.
He could score a cheeky one in that game, but I think he's starting to max out. Look at it this week and next week. He's probably the better play over Hutch this week, in my mind. Ben Trebojevic is named at center. He dropped out a 35-point game last week at center, so against Penrith too. So maybe we're wrong, but
I actually don't mind Burbo at center, and the reason being is it's not like he has huge base stats in the edge spot anyway. So it's not like he's a 35 tackle, 100-meter guy. He kind of only makes like 50 meters and 20-odd tackles most weeks. And playing next to his brother, he can definitely pick up. Like, they're so good on the sweep, but he could score a few himself, or he could be the last pass to the wing and get some assists. I think he's almost at his
better because he gets to 80 minutes, right?
Yeah, he gets 80 minutes. I don't know if it's better. I just don't think there's as much difference as people expect. But again, like, I just can't trade it. Like, I've got too many other players I need to trade out, so I have to hold Ben. But I think these are the guys, Hutch, Flanagan, Turbo, are guys, if you're not trading out this week, probably have to be traded out next week. This is probably the last week you can hold on to them.
I agree with that. Then Blaze. Let's talk about Blaze for a sec, because I think he's all right. Like, as a Para fan, I don't blame him for last week's performance at all. He's a young half who's come in. He's in more of that Dylan Brown mold, so it was more of a team configuration move than a Blaze is a problem move, personally, for mine. They need a guy who can come in and be that first receiver, be a bit of a primary playmaker, put a bit of kicking game on as well. Let Dylan Brown play his regular running game. So Blaze, I'm surprised he didn't keep a spot at center, even potentially. But what would I do here? He's probably a pretty firm sell for a lot of people because you might have Galvin already, you might have Piakura already, you might have Nathan Cleary, Isaiah Yo, Joe Chan. I mean, I'd sell Chan before I sell Blaze, actually. So actually, you know what? I am holding Blaze this week, but if you need to sell Blaze, I'm desperate, right? So I kind of have to do it. But I would sell Chan before I sold Blaze, but I wouldn't be desperate to hold Blaze. I don't think he's going to get back into the team soon.
Yeah, I think he needs injuries to get back in the team. But a lot of Eels fans are bashing the Harper, move. I don't think he's as bad as everyone's hyping him up. He's actually quite solid defensively.
He's fine. He's a big unit.
He's a big unit. He's a meter eater. He's not a superstar, but Blaze is really young, and I think it's probably a bit too early for him. I'm not trading him this week because I'd rather trade out Satili Tupanua and Taylor May and those kinds of guys. But I think again, if your team doesn't have issues, like I'd out of this list, I'd probably trade Blaze over the others just because the others could still make some money. And yeah, I agree, Blaze probably quite far from the team.
I mean, it moves progressively down, right? Because then Jordan Rapana, 6 to 8 weeks, he had a meniscus tear in that game. Somehow played the second half with that.
And killed us.
Pretty crazy.
Still outran most of our team. Yeah.
Mate, insane. I played a season with a meniscus tear actually, and only realized after the season.
Oh, okay.
And it hurts. It hurts. Yeah. It's not a great thing, but you can do everything you can normally do. So it's a little weird one. He's a firm sell. I don't think he gets back into the fullback spot when he comes back even. So if you have him in a draft league and you can sell him for anything at all, I would go make those moves as well. Pretty firm one there. But yeah, Biz, any other final words for everyone before they put their estimations in for Tommy Talau's score this week?
No, I think, I would kind of think a few weeks ahead because what we'll be seeing over the next couple of weeks is a lot of big guns are going to come back. Like Cleary's going to come back. Payne Haas is going to come back. And if you want those guys, you can't really splurge on too many guns now, right? You can't have them all. So you got to really debate, do you want to sacrifice getting a gun this week? Like, for example, do I get DC this week or wait next week and get Cleary? Do I get like a gun forward? Like, do I get Carrigan in, or etc., or do I just wait a couple of weeks and try to get Haas in before everyone else does? Do I start need to clearing out Origin players? Like now is the point of the season where you have to start planning a few weeks ahead in advance, not just for the week. And also, like with a lot of these cheapies that people are getting, I would try and visualize the worst case scenarios. Like, for example, Chevy and Iro get dropped in the same week. Like, do you have enough players to cover them? Are you going to be scrambling? It's something I haven't done that well this year, to be honest, and it's probably a reason why I'm having my worst year ever. So, but like, look, every week I'm on here, I'm hoping to be creeping up the ranks. Let's see how it goes. Longy, you're doing pretty well. You had a tough week with injuries and whatnot, but we sold wrong.
Mate, Biz bounce back season is on, and also guys, drop the link in for this too. But yeah, check out the bling bling we got coming through as well. If you're backing yourself to win it all, we got the rings, we got the Tommy Talau specials. Not officially sponsored by him, but maybe I can get a photo of him with one. Drop that score in the comments. Check out the Discord as well. He wouldn't know about us yet. But anyway, peace out, guys. Good luck this week. We'll see you on the next one.